In 1977, two very strange sounds were recorded deep in the ocean. Their frequency was extremely low, but their amplitude was incredibly large. These mysterious sounds were detected by the radar of the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. What made this even more astonishing was that the same sounds were recorded by other radars located 5,000 kilometers away. After careful analysis, scientists estimated the origin of these sounds and found that they came from an extremely remote part of the South Pacific Ocean. At the time, these sounds were named the Bloop, and research began to determine their source. Given their immense amplitude, it was believed that the sounds must have come from something very large. However, no such massive creature or object was ever found in this part of the ocean. For many years, speculation ran wild, with some even believing that a giant, undiscovered sea creature might be lurking in the depth. However, in 2012, NOAA officially stated that the bloop was most likely caused by glacial movements, specifically the cracking and shifting of iceberg. Despite this explanation, the mystery surrounding the bloop remains unsolved, as some scientists and researchers still question the true origin of these sounds. Point Nemo, the most isolated place on Earth. Interestingly, the exact location where the bloop was recorded is now known for something else entirely. This region of the South Pacific Ocean is called the Oceanic Pole of Inaccessibility, more commonly known as Point Nemo. Point Nemo is the most remote location on Earth, surrounded by thousands of miles of open ocean. The nearest landmass is approximately 2,688 kilometers away, and that landmass is Antarctica, which is uninhabitable. The closest inhabited land is the coast of Chile, 3,334 kilometers away, and New Zealand, 4,700 kilometers away. Because it is so remote, the closest humans to Point Nemo are not on land, but in space. The astronauts aboard the International Space Station, which orbits about 400 kilometers above the Earth and passes over the area once or twice a day. The spacecraft graveyard. Despite being cut off from civilization, Point Nemo serves an important purpose. It is the final resting place for retired satellites, spacecraft, and even space stations. Before the discovery of Point Nemo, decommissioned satellites and spacecraft were often brought down in remote parts of the Pacific Ocean or uninhabited regions of land. However, with the precise calculations made in 1992 by Canadian engineer Hervoya Lucatella, Point Nemo was identified as the ideal location for spacecraft disposal. Since this location lies in international waters, no country has jurisdiction over it. This makes it a convenient place for various space agencies, including NASA, Roscosmos, and the European Space Agency, to safely crash their space objects. The first major spacecraft to be deorbited and dropped at Point Nemo was the Russian space station Mir in 2001, after 15 years of operation. Since then, over 260 spacecraft and satellites have been intentionally directed to crash into this remote part of the ocean. The International Space Station is also planned to be retired and deorbited into Point Nemo around 2030. Why are satellites and spacecraft crashed here? Satellites and space stations are designed with extreme precision and cost millions, sometimes billions of dollars to build. However, they are not built to last forever. Like any other machine, they have an expiration date. If old or malfunctioning satellites are left in orbit, they can become dangerous space debris, which might collide with other satellites or even fall uncontrollably to Earth. This was proven in 1978 when the Soviet satellite Cosmos 954 lost contact with ground control and re-entered Earth's atmosphere uncontrolled. This satellite was especially dangerous because it contained a nuclear reactor for power. When it burned up in the atmosphere, radioactive debris scattered across northern Canada. A massive cleanup effort called Operation Morning Light was launched to recover and decontaminate the radioactive material. Fortunately, no one was harmed, but this event highlighted the risks of uncontrolled satellite crashes. Another incident occurred in 1997 when an Oklahoma woman named Lottie Williams was hit on the shoulder by a piece of debris while walking in a park. Investigators later determined that the debris was from a Delta II rocket, which had broken apart during re-entry. Luckily, she was not injured, but the event raised awareness of the dangers posed by falling space debris. To prevent such incidents, engineers carefully plan and calculate when and how to deorbit old satellites and space stations. Thrusters are used to slowly push them out of orbit, directing them toward Point Nemo. Because space has no air, friction, or pressure, a satellite can remain in orbit for months or even years if not actively moved. However, once it is pushed toward Earth, gravity takes over, and as it enters the atmosphere at speeds of up to 15,000 kilometers per hour, it burns up due to extreme friction, reaching temperatures of 3,000 degrees Celsius. Most of the satellite vaporizes before reaching the ocean. However, some debris does survive re-entry, which is why Point Nemo, with its 22 million square kilometers of uninhabited ocean, is the safest place for space debris to land. Why is it called Point Nemo? The name Nemo comes from Latin, meaning no one, a fitting name for a place where no humans live and where even marine life is scarce. Due to strong ocean currents, the water at Point Nemo does not mix well with nutrient-rich waters from other parts of the Pacific Ocean. As a result, few marine organisms can survive there. Some deep-sea creatures like squid, bioluminescent fish, and other extreme condition organisms may exist at great depth, but overall, the region is considered one of the least biologically active parts of the ocean. Because of its extreme remoteness, reaching Point Nemo is nearly impossible. The closest rescue teams would take 2 weeks to reach someone stranded there by ship. Only a few helicopters in the world, such as the Sikorsky S-92, Augusta-Westland AW-101, and Lockheed Martin V-71, have the range to fly 3,000 kilometers without refueling. And even then, they would not have enough fuel for a return trip. Will scientists ever explore Point Nemo? Despite its desolation, scientists dream of exploring Point Nemo. Future research may uncover new marine species adapted to its harsh conditions or solve the mystery of the bloop. For now, however, Point Nemo remains Earth's most isolated location, a vast, watery graveyard for humanity's most advanced technology. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. See you in the next video.